Every single week I see another e-commerce brand switching over to AI ads thinking that it's going to fix your creative problem. And every single time the results end up telling the same story. And the problem is, it's not that AI doesn't look good. Like genuinely, it is more impressive than it's ever been. I want to get that very clear. But here is what nobody tells you making those videos saying these 5 AI ad formats are crushing it. Because AI is just a delivery mechanism. It's just a way to portray the ad and the words that are being said. And so if the actual creative strategy, the copy, the mechanism behind it, the way it's delivered isn't good, who cares if you have the best looking AI creative in the world or this format is crushing it right now? And so I've done personally over $5 million just on my own creatives on both TikTok Shop and Meta, as well as collectively done over $10 million for brands in a very short period of time. And I want to be very, very clear here. I use AI every single day, and you should be using AI every single day. But I've seen brands spend so much money, burn so much money trying to get AI creatives to work just because it's the new hot thing right now. In this video, I want to show why AI UGC isn't actually working the way that a lot of brands think that it's working. And so I do want to show you where AI is genuinely helping, and I use it on a daily basis, and where brands should make sure that they are using it if they want to capitalize on their time and just get the best return on investment. Now, if you look at every single YouTube video around e-commerce right now, most of them are talking about AI, right? So again, obviously, let me be very, very clear here. You should be implementing AI in your business, right? But AI, what are the main styles of content that we see a lot of people talking about with AI, right? So you have AI UGC, AI, yapping style videos, right? And again, I'm not saying that all this stuff doesn't work. I'm gonna get to the point of, and I'll eventually get to the point of what I'm trying to say with all this. You have AI UGC, the inanimate objects. I kind of call it the veggie tail style ad where you have some sort of cartoon character, right? Those ads are doing very well right now, of course. And then you have AI video generation where you do something that doesn't even seem to be real, and you do AI podcast ads or AI whatever. And this AI, that there's so many different ways to do AI style ads, right? So again, AI, and the point that I'm trying to make here, AI is just the delivery mechanism, right? And now here's why I think not a lot of people realize the complications that AI add to all of this, right? So again, it sounds great in the beginning, like, oh, you don't have to train creators, you don't have to talk to creators, you don't have to make the ads yourself, which again, sounds very good in theory. And again, you got to remember, the biggest thing that I've learned in terms of just making ads for e-commerce brands, doing ads myself, working with a ton of different brands, is when people are zigging, you want to zag. And again, I want to apologize, the handwriting's horrible. I'm absolutely doing my best here, right? But when people are zigging, you want to zag. And the reason for that is, again, people get so accustomed to seeing things, right? So for example, back to 2017, 2020, what was the main style of content? UGC, where you had the B-roll, you had all this other stuff, right? So it's like people get used to seeing one thing. And so it's like when you do something that's the exact opposite, oftentimes you're going to stick out because everybody else is doing the opposite thing, right? Now, again, there might come a time before, like when AI was just getting started, right? And I would still say we're kind of in the beginning stages of AI. It still somewhat sticks out, but it's like the problem is when something becomes a buzzword, everybody hops on it. And so oftentimes you can find these little pockets of things. For example, everybody's over here at this. If you're in another little smaller pocket that nobody's really paying attention to, you're able to make a lot of money because nobody is even used to seeing the style of content that you are using. And so for example, you have Sora, you have all these different tools, you have Nana Banana. And again, I'm going to explain where and when you should be using these tools, because again, I use these tools every single day to make that extremely clear, but these are all just the delivery mechanism, right? So again, the problem is if you have an ad, if your ads were bad before with using real people, if your ads before where you're trying to do founder style ads, whatever it may be, if the copy is bad in those, what the point that I'm trying to make, this is an amplifier, right? So if you're copywriting, and I think I spelled that wrong, that's just embarrassing, but amplify, right? So it's an amplifier on the copy of the ad itself, because not only, again, do you have the copy behind it, do you have the positioning and the creative strategy behind it that you have to get right? Because again, so many brands, half the best winning ads are just having really good creative strategy, right? So the best ads are positioning the product in a way that makes sense. So, what is exactly this creative strategy? I talk about this in a lot of my other videos, but you have product aware, you have problem aware, and you also have solution aware, right? So again, that's in a nutshell. Obviously there's more things around it, but in general, that's some of the main things that you're considering when you're doing creative strategy, right? So again, AI being an amplifier, what that means is, again, if this stuff isn't sound, if this stuff isn't quality, if you're not having the right creative strategy, which by the way, if you need someone to help with creative strategy for your specific brand, that's one of the main things that we help with as well as we deliver ads that don't look like ads. So if you need Yapper style ads, skit style ads, you can book a link in the call and description. We've done over $10 million plus for brands by making ads that don't necessarily look and feel like ads, but they do really well because we are positioning them with creative strategy. So whether you need help with creative strategy for your brand or you want ads made specifically, talking head, Yapper style, and skit style ads, you can book a link in the description. That's something we help e-commerce brands with all the time if you're doing at least minimum anywhere from 50 to 100K plus per month on the lower side. And so let's break this down a little bit more. Again, I talk about creative strategy in a lot of my other videos, but this is the main point that I'm trying to make here, right? So are people product aware, right? So for example, if you are selling a collagen supplement, so for example, right? Are people product aware? Do they know collagen exists? Yes, for sure. So of course they know collagen exists. So that means we want to position the product in a way that people know what collagen already is. And I kind of compare it to, if you're doing a race, if you can start a race 35% of the way through as opposed to starting at the beginning, which is what you were doing when somebody's product aware, well, that just makes your life 10 times easier, isn't that? Because you already won 35% of the battle. You're 35% of the way through the race before the race even started, right? Are people problem aware? Do people, one of the problems that your product solves, and if you're thinking, well, our product doesn't necessarily solve a problem, again, that's a creative strategy problem, right? I don't care if you're doing a supplement, a non-supplement, if you're selling, my dog sitting right there, if you're selling a dog bed, it solves a problem, right? And if you're thinking, okay, well, we don't know what kind of problems our product solves, well, that inherently is a problem, right? But that's the point that I'm trying to make in this video. You're spending all this time on these tools, on the delivery mechanism, Sora, Nano Banana, all these, Kling, all these different softwares to animate all this different stuff. It does not fix the copywriting principles, right? That's one of the main things that we help a lot of people with is like, okay, they know how to make the AI ads, but they don't know how to fix the creative strategy and the principles and the copywriting behind it. That's why we're going to come in and help so many different e-commerce brands, right? But for the problem specifically, right, are people problem aware? So for example, and let's just go back to the dog bed example, right? For example, if a dog has joint problems, again, do you really need to sit there and diagnose what it looks like for a dog to have a joint problem? No, people know if their dog has a joint problem. They're struggling to get up the steps, all this other stuff, right? Now, again, when you have this creative strategy down pat, right? And let me just finish this quick example, right? So are people solution aware, right? So for example, in terms of the solution itself, right? So people have joint problems. What do people already know about the solution for joint problems, right? There's a ton of different things that people use for joints, right? And we want to use that to our advantage to be like, okay, how can we position this product in a different way to sell a solution? And I kind of call this reframing beliefs, right? So you want to reframe the beliefs that people have around a specific solution. Again, so this is kind of the basics of the creative strategy. And I have a full guide on my channel already in terms of creative strategy and how you should be positioning this stuff. But again, this is the kind of stuff that you have to have down pat, right? And once you understand all of this stuff, that's when you can get into the AI tools, right? Now here's where you can get fun with it. But it's like, if you can't even make the ads yourself, if you can't write good copy, if you can't hand this off to a UGC creator, it's like trying to put a Band-Aid on a broken bone. It's not fixing the root issue of why your ads are bad in the first place, right? So again, fix all the creative strategy stuff before getting to the AI. So right here are some ways, if you're trying to how do I actually fix the creative strategy? Well, again, you should also be using AI to help your creative strategy. So the very first thing that you should be doing for sure, like this is a bare bones minimum, use Manus. Now again, the different AI tools are constantly changing, but at this time, I personally like Manus the best. And so one of the biggest things that I do for Manus in particular is I feed it all of my winning ads. Now again, will this be as good as an actual creative strategist? Of course not. It's still AI, it's good, it'll get you there. But at the bare minimum, you should be using Manus to feed it all of your winning ads. Read the copy. So one thing that I do for myself and even on brands that I'm working with is like, okay, let's look at these ads and I'll plug them into Manus, like, hey, is this ad congruent to the landing page that we have? And again, I'm not going to get into a whole CRO optimization on this video. That's a whole different conversation. We're more so focused on the creative strategy side. But it's like, if there's a mismatch, oftentimes that can pick that up. So again, you want to make sure that your ads are congruent to what the landing page is, right? And so Manus can for sure help with that, right? So how else should you be using AI? Well, obviously Nano Banana, right? Nano Banana is very good, whether that's for statics, for native ads, static type stuff. You can use it for native ads, which I'm a big fan of actually. And you can also use it just for, infographics on your site or for your ads, whatever it may be, right? So that's the kind of stuff you should be using it for, right? It's a tool to help you get your words across. It's not going to be a replacement for having bad copywriting in general. And now another good one, again, so just for graphics as well. Oh, scratch that. Now where you can really get fun with it, but the problem with this is, with AI specifically, I wrote a 56-page SOP on how to write scripts. But again, the only way that I can do that is by being good at copywriting. So if eventually you're trying to hand off, whether that's copywriting, or you're trying to train someone in creative strategy and get them starting from step 3 as opposed to step 1, again, you can use Manus to write an SOP based on what you know around how you write ads, one of the best ads for your brand, right? So it's an amplifier on something as opposed to being a crutch. And the biggest problem is that so many people use it as a crutch. And again, the biggest thing on the drive home, the main lesson I want you to take away, if you're gonna take away one thing, hopefully you're taking away at least a couple things, but regardless, if you're trying to take away one main lesson from this specific video, it's that when people are doing something, everybody's over here in this little circle, you should be over here doing the exact opposite. Because again, when people are so used to something, and again, I've seen people on Twitter, whatnot, be like, oh, well, this ad is crushing for us. Yeah, absolutely, like go for it. But again, if your copywriting principles, if your basics and how to do creative strategy properly aren't in place, this is gonna make your life 10 times more difficult, because not only are you learning how to write ads and do all this stuff, but you're trying to use all these different tools and mechanisms on top when you haven't learned the basics. So no, in a nutshell, AI UGC is not going to save your brand. It's a delivery mechanism and is absolutely nothing more. Because again, if your copy is bad, if your positioning is off, none of this is going to fix that, because none of this is going to fix it by itself. Where AI actually helps is brainstorming, visuals, putting the pieces together, helping you save time, maybe even helping with landing pages, maybe helping with design and copy, not necessarily writing the ads by itself or doing some unique variation style ad if the scripts themselves are. Now, if you want to see me, I touched on it briefly, I talked about earlier on the main style of content that's actually outperforming AI ads right now, which are basically ads that don't look like ads. I call them yapper ads. Go click this video right here. I did a full in-depth breakdown on what exactly that looks like, how you actually make these ads, and not just the theory behind that. So with that said, go watch that video. I promise it's going to be extremely useful. I'll see everybody in the next video.